So, hello to Marisha Lakiani. Thank you so much for joining us today. We just had an amazing conversation that I wish that we just recorded about, women celebrating other women as well. And she just said amazing things to me that I wish that I recorded as well, just so that my ego is in place. Thank you so much, Marisha, for being here. As I said to you before we started, that I came randomly across your profile, and I'm a very, very spiritual person. So, sometimes I look for signs, and if it feels right, I'll do it, and if it doesn't feel right, I don't do it. And I think that's part of why we got connected, and why we're doing this as well, is that we share similar aspirations in life as women as well. And so thank you so much for joining us. The I think the topic that I was mostly interested in, and feel free to talk about anything that's that you feel like resonates with you as well. But one of the topics that I felt strongly about, and we talk a lot to startups about, not many people talk about it, is the growth strategies. So you are the chief growth officer of Mindvalley, and we hardly hear about this role, especially in startups. So before going into that, I want to ask you if Mindvalley is considered a startup or a scale up, or what do you consider it? For me, definitely it's past the startup stage, but would like to know from you.
So definitely past the startup stage. I feel like we were in a startup stage for a very, very long time. And right now we're in the scale up stage. So we're doing around 200 million. And we're doing really great growth numbers. So we're doing like 30 to 40% growth year on year. But this is only in the last couple of years, right? So in the beginning, it was a lot of trial and error, as you do with any business, testing new products, testing new ideas, innovating a little bit, seeing what works, what doesn't, and then refining your business model. And only now we've kind of really refined it. We have the right team to kind of accelerate that growth. We've just nailed it. So right now it's just really like adding fuel to the fire and just seeing how far we can go. Um, so yeah, it's just been an incredible journey. Right now we're doing we have 20 million students across the world. They're from everywhere.
Wow.
We have customers from Spain, by the way.
Yeah.
I think the beauty about it is that it's not just a product. So when I get customer feedback and reviews, there's customers telling me like, you changed my life. Like I was going through a shitty divorce, or I was on the verge of a breakdown. I was going through like burnout, and what Mindvalley did is just help them reframe the way they look at life, change their habits, change their protocol, give them a new perspective. And yeah, now they're like living their best life. They're more aligned, more fulfilled, more spiritual, more balanced as human beings. And I think that's like the biggest motivator and driver for what we do, because it's not really about the money, and at the end of the day, it's, are you truly adding value to the world? Are you truly creating a difference, right?
That's amazing, because I was going to say that I think anyone from everywhere knows Mindvalley, and this is not the common thing that you see. We're used to, let's say Western companies, like American companies, the Ubers, the Airbnbs that we know about, and usually in the startup space, especially here in the GCC region, one of the successful models is to copy a successful startup from the US, and you're more likely to be acquired. But it's looking at Mindvalley, it's quite unique. And it's, you started in Malaysia. I think you're based in Malaysia as well as a headquarter.
Yeah.
Um, I would like to know, how did you grow it into different cultures, different countries? How was that possible?
It's really funny. So, uh, like a lot of the growth happened from, so, a lot of businesses will tell you that you have to listen to your customers, right?
Yeah.
And what we did is we listened to our customers, but we also did what we felt was right. Because at the end of the day, your customers know to an extent, but they don't know what they don't know. So there's this quote by Henry Ford, the guy who built the cars.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he says, if I would have asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said, I want a faster horse. But that's not the solution to innovation. He built a car, which essentially is a faster horse, but it's completely disruptive. It completely changed the way we live our lives today, right? So it's a healthy balance of listening to your customers and then doing what you think is right.
Okay.
And with every single bit of innovation, what we did is we tested it. So we A/B tested it.
Mm.
So I'll give you an example. What we found, we looked at data and we found that, okay, if we look at all our customer base, 54% are from America, but the rest are from everywhere else. Like we have customers from Ghana,
Yeah.
but how are we catering to these customers? So we started looking at like, okay, we apart outside the US, where our biggest customer base, which ones are our biggest customer base? And we found like a significant amount of customers in South America. So we said, okay, a lot of people in South America, they don't actually speak English. They prefer to learn in Spanish. Let's test. Let's just create a funnel, dub our content. Let's test and see how this can work. And what we saw is like incredible results. And then within the span of a year, the Spanish division was like 10 million. And we
Wow.
had a list of like 3 million people. So it's really about, okay, you listen to the market, you look at the data, and you do what feels right as well. So I like that you mentioned that you're a little bit spiritual because I
Yeah.
do think that that's what gives people the edge. It's not always, you cannot always look at numbers and think the numbers tell you the whole story. It's a little bit of intuition, a little bit of knowledge, experience. It's a combination of everything that helps to drive like the best innovation.
Yeah, and talking about innovation, how do you encourage innovation in Mindvalley? Do you have a process, or is it anyone that can come up with an idea? I'm interested to see how that's done.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So everyone can come up with an idea, and we have a pretty flat hierarchy. So you can like literally message our CEO and share an idea with him and see if he likes it. If he likes it, you get a green light right away in 10 minutes to execute. Now in the marketing team, we have these meetings called Shark Tank. So what we do is we propose a business problem. So we tell the team like, okay, we have this business problem. There'll be certain champions within teams. They come up with how they would solve the problem and they pitch it to a group of the senior managers. And then we invest in the ideas that we think will be able to solve that problem. So it allows the team to be innovative, to be creative, to do the market research, and present the ideas, and then they get rewarded for like the best ideas that we pick and choose. So
Yeah,
that's a fun way to drive innovation.
yeah, and it's a very simple process. Like any company can do that.
Yeah, any
It's
company
just
can do
any
that.
company can do that. Once you have a process in place, I feel like, once the employees know that, there is a process. Whenever I have an idea, whenever I see a problem that's worth solving, I can, I know what to do, and I'm encouraged and motivated to do it as well.
Yeah, but it's so sad because a lot of companies they don't empower the employees to do it because they think like, oh, the senior managers are so smart, they will have all the ideas. The junior, people that are executing, they're just executing. So let's get them to just stay in the execution mode. Don't ask them to come up with any ideas. But then there's like this, there was this case study. I'll tell you about a store in London. So there was a store in London and they were trying to figure out how to drive sales during their peak, like off-peak times. So the founder of the store was like, okay, call all his team together and said, okay, I want some ideas because I want to drive up sales. Our sales are plummeting. We need to skyrocket it. I want to hear every idea. So some senior managers were like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the data and look at the peak times and the inventory that's the highest, and we're going to double that inventory there, and we're going to get more of this because we're seeing this. We did market research and we found like this is trending, and we're going to do this, and they were using this data-driven approach, an analytical approach to solve the problem. But then there was an intern, and the intern was like, I know what to do. Let's create a blue slide within the store. And the founder was like, that is so crazy, but
Mm.
why not? Let's just do it. So he created the blue slide. He went with the intern strategy, and the store was full
Just because of that.
just because of that. So the store was full, and he hit all his sales numbers just because sometimes the best way to solve a problem is not through data, it's through creativity, right? We can't neglect creativity in problem solving. And the blue slide, you know how the new generation is, they want to take selfies, they want to
Yeah.
Instagram, the virality, all of these things. Like there's such a ripple effect that you can't diminish the value of that. So sometimes like the best ideas can come from interns. We just have to be open and receptive and and mature enough to know that we don't always have all the answers, and we should be open to hear the answers from the people that are within the organization.
Wow, that's such a good balance between, what you should listen to. As you said, Henry Ford said, if I asked my customers, maybe they would not come up with a car as a solution. They just wanted a faster horse. But, listening and looking at data and deciding which one makes more sense and experimenting as well, which is super important. Something came to mind when you were talking about marketing. I think a lot of companies we talk to, they say, oh, marketing is dead and marketing is, AI is going to take over. And obviously, I don't believe that because I feel like, without marketing, you can't see growth. And I think one of the, as I was driving in this morning, I listened to one of your interviews and you said that your department or your team is responsible to over 90% of Mindvalley's revenue. Is that correct? Or did I get the number
99.
right? 99. Okay. And the majority, I assume, is through marketing, right?
Yeah, it's all marketing.
Okay. All right. So what do you have to say about that? Like how is marketing evolving? It's content, it's what is it?
So I think it's a mix of it. So the way we do marketing is very performance based. So we look at, okay, if I'm going to do this, what is the revenue I'm going to get out of it? What is the impact that I'm going to get out of it? And it might not always be revenue. In some cases, it might be I get more customers, I get more eyeballs, but everything is measurable. So the team is very numbers driven. They're able to calculate and say, okay, if I implement this strategy, this is the impact, business impact it's going to have. So building, I think a lot of people think marketing is just branding. It's just,
Yeah,
putting a campaign
that's
and hoping for the
exactly.
best.
Yeah.
But marketing is actually very data driven. Like the way we even create. I was with my team on TikTok. I just had a meeting just before your meeting, and they basically grew TikTok from 20,000 views a month to 5.8 million views a month in 6 months.
Wow,
Okay, that's crazy. Then
that's
I was
great.
like, okay, walk me through everything.
Yeah.
And team is so precise with them, their methodology is that they took a video and they uploaded the video. It got like 3,000 views. Then they took the same video, they moved things around, they took a hook, they moved it to the front, they made it snappier, they changed the song, and then they uploaded it again and it got 3.5 million views. And they said that's all
Wow.
we've been doing. We just test. So, and then they build this DNA and they're like, okay, this is what's working, this is what's not working. And they start to build a method. So I think a lot of people think marketing is fluffy ideas,
Yeah.
creative, but actually marketing is a methodology. It's building this methodology and building something with precision so that
Yes.
you're placing right bets more times than not. And if you approach it that way and you understand just not just the creative aspect, but you understand the psychological aspect, you can crush it anywhere and you can drive sales from any email, any video, anything. So a lot of people get it wrong because I interview so many people all the time and they tell me I know marketing, I've done it for 15 years, but they don't understand it. It's
Yeah.
like doing marketing and
Yeah.
understanding marketing is two different things. But when you understand the psychology, like why do people buy? What is how do you integrate social proof? What is reciprocity? All of these triggers, then you understand how to create marketing that's actually effective, and then you build a method that is replicable and you can get it right more times. So yeah, our team has generates 99% of the company's revenue.
Oh.
It's crazy because I always tell them, I was like, if you don't come to work, we make no money, So we
Yeah.
always joke around that. And then it's all through A/B testing, trying new ideas, also being creative, building the process, creating the method. And that's how we've grown. Like that's how we've had consistent growth.
Amazing. And do you think, does every startup that's going through a scaling up phase, do they need a chief growth officer? Is it enough just to have marketing? What's your take on that?
So I genuinely think the world is shifting and they're now wanting less CMOs and they're actually preferring more chief growth officers and they're called CGOs. And the reason for that is because a lot of businesses they want to invest in marketing and they love the idea, but they want something measurable and tangible. They want to be
Yeah.
able to say, okay, I'm gonna invest this amount, but this is what I'm gonna get back. How
Yeah.
many eyeballs, how many sales, how many leads. So they all wanting to move in this direction. I was reading so many articles saying that there's not enough chief growth officers in the world and there's so much demand for it. So I think if any marketer, you need to start thinking about performance marketing and how to make your results measurable. And then it helps you because right now in Mindvalley, I probably have one of the biggest budgets just because I'm able to justify
Yeah.
the investment, so I think it's very, very important to start shifting marketing in this direction because this is a way to show your value versus, preaching value.
Yeah, exactly. And I think so what you said, so in terms of a chief growth officer, you need to be, doing marketing, doing sales. What else would you be doing if you're a chief growth officer?
I so I come up with like the product vision, the product
Mm.
strategy,
All right.
the marketing plan for the strategy, like which markets, how we're going to go to market with it,
Yeah.
what channels are we going to utilize. So maybe we say we're going to do out of home for certain products. We might do creators, we might use
Mm.
influencers. Which markets are we going to use? What do they look like? What is the brand messaging? How are we deploying email? What is the Instagram strategy? So it's literally a combination of like a chief revenue officer and a chief marketing officer. I even get involved in products. So I would literally go and say, okay, we're going to build this other product. And then this is how the app flow should look like. This is the customer experience. This is how we should convert users here. So I get involved with different teams. And you kind of like a mini CEO and you span across multiple teams and you're guiding the strategy. So it's a very hybrid role, but it's very fun and creative because you're not doing one thing.
Yeah.
You get to have an overview of multiple things. And ideally, if you think about the customer is, as well it's a journey. It's not like the customer is doing multiple things, they're buying multiple products, they're engaging on multiple channels. So if you start thinking about their journey and you start to understand them on like a psychological level, you can be able to be more effective and convert them better and nurture them better. So I definitely think that this is the way people should be thinking.
Amazing. Thank you. And do you feel there's a difference between customer behavior in different regions? Is there anything that you can share, like that's standing out for you?
So many cultural differences. It's crazy. There's like a style of communication. Some countries prefer more direct. For example, in Germany, they prefer more direct communication. They prefer shorter content. They prefer to the point. Whereas in
Yeah.
America, they prefer longer, take your time, explain concepts. So if I did a webinar in the US, I could span the webinar for 1.5 hours and it will have the highest conversion rates. But in Germany, it would have to be under 30 minutes. If not, it would not convert. So
Okay.
just even the style of communication, the language used, the kind of edits that are required, how people relate to the product, what topics they're interested in. There's just so many small nuances based on different cultures. Um, you have to pay a lot of attention to it. And I think you can get caught up with it so much as well because you can't be perfect. So, for example, like when we did the localization for Spanish market, I had so many people write to me and say, "Oh, but you're not speaking my Spanish." And so many, Latam is massive.
There's
Everyone has a
so many
dialect.
Spanish languages,
Yeah.
actually. Yes.
So is it cost effective for me to dub in every single dialect of Spanish? Like,
Mhm.
no, it's not. So we have to place our bets and some people might not be happy and we have to be okay with that. You can't be perfect all
Yeah.
the time. So I
Yeah.
think it's about understanding the cultural nuances, but also understanding what makes business sense and then kind of finding a healthy balance where you're trying to deliver the value and not,
Yeah.
be culturally respectful, but also making business sense and being impactful with business objectives.
Yeah, and talking about impact, and you said something earlier on about why you do what you do. It's about, impacting people's lives. Do you see a future for purpose-driven companies, or do you feel like, you need to be balancing between, business and purpose? What's your take on that?
I definitely think it's a healthy balance because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, to scale your purpose-driven company, you need the funds to scale it.
Yeah.
It's just how the world is, right? So I think that it has to be a healthy balance,
Yeah.
but I think the intentions have to be clear. The minute you start doing things for profit, it's so evident to the
Mhm.
customer that you don't have their best interest in mind and you lose trust and credibility instantaneously. As long as the right intention is there, that you're making the decisions you're thinking about profitability, but you're making your decisions based on what is the best for the customer or how can you give the best value for the customer, profit will come.
100%.
So I feel like, and that's with everything I do. I feel like even leading my team, making decisions within the company, every single thing I do is always about the right intentions for the company, for the team. Because it's not even about the company sometimes. It's like,
Yeah.
is this the right decision for my team? Are they going to grow? Is this going to make sense for them? Is it going to be too much work for them? Will they be burnt out by doing all this extra stuff? So it's about having the right intentions for the collective, and then once you do that, everything will flow to you. So yeah, I believe in that.
Yeah, true. Very, very true, actually. I think the most successful examples we see are based on having the right intention, the right values, aligning with your customers as well. And yes, of course, thinking about business as well. And yeah, as you said, the balance between the two. Now, you mentioned funding, and I think one of the most interesting things for me about Mindvalley from a business perspective is that you didn't get any funding yet, right? You bootstrapped. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like for me, what is it like? Do you think this is an advantage? Do you think um, having an investment early
I
on would have been better? What do you think?
That's such a great question. I don't know because genuinely I think it's an advantage because I think that we've made a lot of decisions based on what feels right to us and what is right for our customers. And had we have had a board of investors, I feel like they might not have supported some of our decisions because again, as an investor, you're always thinking about profitability, right?
Yeah.
So if we had the right, and it's also about the right investor, not all investors are like that. Some investors really see the value in scaling a brand and they understand the brand and they know what is the brand needs and they understand that certain innovations might not make sense at the time, but it's for the long-term vision. So there are investors like that. But I do think that I think our creative edge has been the fact that we're self-funded, we make all our decisions, you know, we do what's right for us, for our customers. We kind of wholly own that, the successes, the failures. And now I think it's a great time to kind of get that investment money because now we have a proven model, we have the right
Yeah.
unit economics. So many people are looking at us and they're like, oh my God, like the results are incredible. You
Yeah.
have what most companies don't have, a community that loves your product. So I think now is a good time. But yeah, it's you. I don't know if there's a right and wrong answer. I just feel
Yeah.
like it has given us a lot of creative freedom.
100%. I think that's what fascinates me. And as well, like we look at successful examples and we always think about, getting an investment is success or, getting the second round of investment is a success. But it's never that. It's just you could get how many rounds of investment and then you can fail and you don't make an impact as well. And, really success
Yeah,
or failure is about how much impact you're creating, regardless of how much money you're making from the
I
beginning, right?
agree.
Yeah.
And I have friends that have gotten like 9 million funding,
Yeah.
and they thought their world was going to change, but they're not scaling at the same rate. They are burnt out. They're stressed. Now they owe investor money, and if I had to look at them and I look at where we are, I feel like we're not stressed. We're building what we need to build. We know the direction. We're in tune with our customers. We're innovating, and we're not trying to outrace or out scale anyone. We're doing it at our own pace, right? And it gives us a lot of freedom to do what we want to do. So I don't think there's a right and wrong. I just feel like you have to understand where you are, what industry you're in, what is needed for your industry. Like, do you want to outscale your competition or not? So yeah, there's no right or wrong. Like I think the decision we made for us is probably the best for us. And now might be the time to kind of bring in investors because now we have something substantial.
Yeah, and what comes to mind as well is that, a lot of us are obsessed with entrepreneurship, are obsessed with starting companies, but it's really, really hard. It's not easy. I started one myself many years ago, and it's really hard. I think what is underrated is joining a startup and helping to start the startup to grow. And I think that's your success as well. And I'm so happy to see that and to see a woman behind, the success of Mindvalley and, behind the 99% revenue of Mindvalley as well.
Yeah, I used to have my own startup as well. And
Okay.
I sold it and then I joined Mindvalley. So I'm like you. I'm always about like then I want to run a company. I'm an innovator. I need to do all the work. And then doing this as well, like working in Mindvalley has been like a learning curve for me as well because I learned to now have an executive team where I cannot just throw my ideas out and expect them to listen. I have to convince them. I have to sell my ideas. I have to think about each one and support them in their growth. But also because there's a budget to play with, you can play big, you
Yeah.
can test your ideas, you can innovate faster. You're not absorbing the risk. So again, pros and cons, it depends on your personality. But I think like true and true, I'm still an entrepreneur. And I love that
Yeah.
Mindvalley kind of offers that as a part of their culture. It allows you to create and innovate and test and fail. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of freedom as well to do what you want to do as well, right? So many companies, I talk to a lot of women in companies, and I'm like, hey, I want to connect you with this conference. They have, they're looking for speakers. They're like, oh no, we're not allowed to go. I need to get approval from my boss. And I'm like, oh my God, it's you're not allowed to shine, or you might, say something, or you're restricted in that way. And I love the culture that you've just shared, Marisha.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I could take approvals from
Yeah.
anyone.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. It was a lovely, lovely conversation with you, and I look forward to seeing you in Bahrain sometime. Hope that you
Yes,
can join us or visit sometime as well.
of course. Thank you so much for taking the time and for reaching out and doing this interview. I appreciate it so much. And again, I
My
appreciate so
pleasure.
much what you're trying to do, balancing this podcast and your own business. And I really
Yeah.
commend and appreciate women like you that are being able to like shine in all different areas of your life.